Hello, my name is Bradley Butler, and I am the Executive Director and Curator at Main Street Arts in Clifton Springs, New York. I'm going to take you on a virtual walkthrough of our current exhibition, Daily Muses. The exhibition was co-curated by Vickie Pierre, and in addition to her work, which you can see right behind me here, and you'll see a little closer shortly. In addition to her work, the show also includes artwork by Julie Davidow, Nozick, Michelle Lisa Polissaint, Loren Santiesteban, Sara Stites, and Michelle Weinberg. Artwork included in the exhibition consists of collage, drawing, painting, photographs, and mixed media pieces, and the title of the exhibition, Daily Muses, references the perpetual search for creative inspiration on a daily basis through common interactions, observations, and surprise encounters. So I'm going to take you on a tour of the exhibition. We'll look at individual pieces by the artists, but first I'm just going to kind of give you a view of the exhibition. And as I listed off the names of the artists in the exhibition, there are 7 of them, and mentioned that the show is co-curated by Vickie Pierre. So she selected each of the other 6 artists in the exhibition, and then Main Street Arts, we worked with them to put together which pieces were going to be included in the show specifically. And one of the ideas behind the show being this notion of inspiration and where ideas come from. There are a few artists who reference that in their own work, and we'll talk about that as we move along. But as you can see, quite a variety of artwork in the show, but I feel they really go well together, all these artists. And then once again for this exhibition too, we had Lori Freer do some lettering for us. This one utilizing shadow. Very interesting. And so I think we'll take a look at some artists in depth here, and we'll start with Julie Davidow. And actually, so Julie is one of the artists that I mentioned, kind of exemplifies this theme in a way. So a lot of the work that she does, or the work in this show, it uses the same imagery in different pieces. So you can see these two that are paired together use the same photograph, or at least one that's very similar, and in different ways. So the larger version being the straight photograph that's printed, and then the smaller being a photograph with collage and hand-drawn elements. And so Julie received her BA in Communications from the University of Florida. After 10 years as a small business owner, she returned to art, attending the New World School of the Arts in Miami with a focus on painting. Her work is included in the permanent collection of the Perez Art Museum Miami, Girls Club in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Epic Miami, and numerous private collections. And she is also the co-author of the book Miami Contemporary Artists. And she currently lives in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And so of her work, she says, "My work seeks to establish order through the mapping of multiple visual cues of biological, botanical, geologic, cartographic, and architectural influences. A struggle to control and relinquish our persistent drives in the process and reflect my continued investigation of the struggle for balance between the natural and built environment." And, the struggle between the natural and the built environment you can see even more clearly in the collages, because there's the natural element of the sky and often some branches, and then there are some more non-organic shapes that develop. But also you can see in the work these lines, which are often rebar from construction sites, kind of in competition with or in concert with the natural element of the tree. And you can see that here on a larger scale too. But on a day like today where it's kind of gray outside, these colors really, almost vibrate. So very interesting to see. And there are several others throughout the show as well. And so next we'll take a look at the work of Lori Nozick from Los Angeles, California. And Lori holds a BFA from Philadelphia College of Art and an MFA from Pratt Institute. And in addition to her personal art practice, she also has a design business doing decorative and unique surfaces for residential and public spaces. And she works with businesses, museums, designers, and real estate developers. And so these are these are 6 of the 8 pieces that are in the show. And you can see these are collage pieces. And Lori says, my art references architectural, social, and environmental changes. Perspective is constantly shifting, and dislocation is a universal predicament. My map drawings, collage, and hand-painted photos resonate as markers of visual memory, drawing from areas as diverse as archaeology, myths, and dreams, environmental, landscape, cultural, and scientific conditions. My work examines ongoing cycles of disintegration and cohesion. So kind of similar to what Julie was saying in her work, and that is another kind of interesting thing about the way that Vickie, in her co-curation, selecting these artists, artists that relate to one another not only through what the work looks like or feels like or what it's made from, but also sometimes in the meaning behind the work or motivation for making the work. And I think what's interesting about the way that she's done these collages, there's often these vertical or horizontal stripes with alternating images, and you can kind of see into, almost 2 different worlds by focusing on the one image and then the other. You kind of jump back and forth. And I think that's that cycle of disintegration and cohesion that she references. And I'll point out one other piece, a little bit different. This one is unframed and on wood, so you can kind of see without the glass between us. And this one uses spray paint on the background too, so kind of another element. And then next we'll look at Vickie Pierre's work. Vickie's from Vero Beach, Florida. And these are the 8 pieces of hers in the show. And so Vickie, co-curator of the exhibition. She was also an artist in residence at Main Street Arts. She was here in November of 2019. And that is, the reason why she's the co-curator of this show. We really wanted to take a look back at some of the residents we've had and highlight them in different exhibitions. And so this is a way to do that with Vickie. So she was the recipient of the 2017 South Florida Cultural Consortium Award. In 2019, she was selected as one of 10 artists in the 6th Annual Orlando Museum of Art Florida Prize. And this October, she will be displaying new works in her solo exhibition at Frederick Schnitzer Gallery in Miami. So that'll be opening, I believe it's the 15th of October. So if you're in that area, keep an eye out for that. And so Vickie says, the works in this exhibition explore identity and ethnicity through the representation of fierce deities and global mythological characters and spirit creatures that are bejeweled and armored. The colorful collaged elements are gift-wrap papers from the arts and crafts and Art Nouveau movements, as well as clippings from nature, jewelry, and interior design magazines. The colorful motifs of flowers and fauna playfully reference body modification and tattoos, recalling rich tribal adornments from around the world. Alternately, the compositions allude to a fantastical biological and botanical structure while maintaining sentiments of whimsy, femininity, sensuality, beauty, and flamboyancy. And so when Vickie was here, she was working on things in this overall series as well. And so it's really great to see this work back in Main Street Arts. And next we'll take a look at Michelle Lisa Polissaint from Miami, Florida. And Michelle Lisa has 3 pieces in this show. So Michelle is a Haitian American visual artist and arts organizer. She is a resident artist at Bakehouse Art Complex and is represented by Spinello Projects. She holds a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree from Florida International University with a concentration in photography and fiber-based painting with a minor in art history. She produces community-based activations and encourages artists and community members to form collaborative relationships. And so this work that we're looking at in the show consists of digitally printed polyester, lace, and thread are on this one here. But there's usually an element of hand stitching and then the printed image on the fabric. And this is my favorite of hers. The saturation on that sky is just really great. And so Michelle Lisa says, at its simplest and most honest, my work responds to my experiences. Utilizing photography, textiles, and community engagement, my practice reflects the world through my Black, queer, Haitian lens, through reflections on personal experiences of loneliness, injustice, heartbreak, or the ephemeral, intangible feeling of a light breeze or a break in the ocean. It is my hope that my work connects to the broader and unifying experience of being human. And there's often, at least in the work that we see here, a reference to the human form. So here we can see the outline of where a person was on this couch, and it's done with thread. And I just love to see the stitched elements on top of the photograph, which is then printed on fabric. I think just a really great relationship between the materials that she uses. And we'll look at her other piece in here as well. But they really have quite a commanding presence in the show. Next, we'll take a look at Loren Santiesteban, also from Miami, Florida. Loren Santiesteban was born in Secaucus, New Jersey, and grew up traveling between Union City, New Jersey, and Miami, Florida. She graduated in 2004 from the School of Visual Arts in New York City with a bachelor's degree in fine arts. She also graduated with a Master of Arts degree in Communications, specializing in art administration from St. Thomas University in 2017. And so she has 4 pieces in the show. And this is using colored pencil, gouache, and acrylic on Yupo paper. So you can see what Yupo does so well with the pooling of paints and inks. And then combined with these, you know, the very loose brush strokes and the pooling combined with the tight drawing, and in this case, the rats. And this piece is called If You Have It, I Want It. And Loren says of her work, I'm a multidisciplinary artist and metalsmith that makes extensive use of topical depth and meticulousness. The focus of my work is the complicated balance between human nature and animal nature, using strokes that depict the common energy shared by both. Beneath the detail and color is a code of language that shows the integrity and purity of the character traits shared both by humans and animals. Through the melding of my imagery, textures, and colors, I create a narrative to tell that story of the human experience. Take a look at another one over here. So all the work here is showing some kind of animal figure along with other materials. And so a couple of these also use a gold paper as a collage element too. But again, the combination of the organic line work and color, and then the tight rendering. We'll look at one more over here. And then we go to Sara Stites from Thomaston, Maine. So born in New York City in 1955, Sara Stites has lived in Texas, Connecticut, Florida, and Maine. She has been working on paper for the last 7 years with watercolor, ink, graphite, and chalk, and she also makes sculptures. And so the work that we have in this exhibition, similarly to what I was saying about Julie Davidow's work, this work also kind of references the idea of inspiration and where ideas come from, because we have a photograph on the left here paired with the actual background that has been photographed. So if I go a little closer, you can see there are elements that she's kind of set up as a still life of sorts and photographed in her studio. And on the background, or on the wall behind all of this, is this painting here. So we decided to have both of these elements in the exhibition just because it really exemplified the theme, you know, of inspiration. So Sara says, eroticism, the subconscious, and automatic drawing all point to a surrealistic aspect in my work. Scrims of color contain the architecture of imagined and remembered form, revealing process and time. Presence is maintained on the surface, which asserts its primacy with concise drawing and clearer color. Heightened color was a joyous reaction to flowers I painted in my main garden and has led to a painterly and intuitive exploration of space, time, and life. So there are 2 pairs of photograph and painting in this exhibition. So we'll take a look at the other one next. And this is called Napoleon. And then we'll go to the other room to take a look at her other piece. As you can can see these have a shared color palette, the kind of blue-gray look. Take a look at the photograph first. This one's called He, She. And you can see the light and shadow that really make an impact in the photograph. And it's just, anytime that I see, you know, something with the same image hung next to, you know, in this kind of setup, it just makes me look back and forth and look at the similarities and differences. You know, you're not quite sure, is this the same piece or not? And then you kind of, you know, inspect, well, what is she using as kind of the still life material? What does that mean? What could it mean? But I just love the gestural nature of these big pieces and this great line work. And then last, we will look at the work of Michelle Weinberg from New York, New York. And there are 3 pieces in the show. And this is another artist who, in a way, you know, kind of references that idea of inspiration and where ideas come from, the idea of the muse, because we've got this pairing of framed work and unframed work, and just the relationship of those two kind of elements I just find really interesting, especially because the framed element is on top of the unframed element. It really makes us question, well, what's the reasoning for that? And also it kind of sets up its own reality in a way. It's saying that this is the final work of art, and then this is now the wall that it sits on. But then that sits on another wall in the gallery. So I think that that's just really an interesting take. So Michelle Weinberg maintains her own flexible pattern, or I'm sorry, her own flexible platform for presenting and promoting artists initiatives called Available Spaces. She is an independent curator, a writer on art, and a consultant to museums and nonprofits, developing exhibitions, publications, education programming, and more. In addition to teaching drawing at Marymount Manhattan College, Weinberg is a mentor at the Radcliffe Incubator for Art and Design, entrepreneurship at Florida International University. And Michelle says of her work, I draw to penetrate the mystery of appearances, to resolve the images in my mind's eye with what I observe in the world. By folding the paper in these works, I'm collaborating with a layer of architecture I construct. The white areas of the larger backdrop drawings become activated by emphasizing the edges, a reference to the sheet of paper as an object as well as a picture. I've described the larger works like flypaper, unfurled, capturing passing thoughts, ideas, notes to self in a sticky surface. Overall, my art is like my life. Lots of color, shapes, layers, new spaces, and interesting relationships. And I think what's interesting too is seeing very similar things happening, you know, within the framed work and within the backdrop pieces, but it comes across very differently, you know, from one to the other. Take a look at the last one here. And often there are things written, in this case seeing things, but great patterns and spaces created in Michelle's work. So that is the work that's included in this exhibition, Daily Muses. I'd like you to mark your calendar for Tuesday, October 11th at 6 p.m. for a discussion with the artists included in Daily Muses. It will be a great opportunity to learn more about the artists and their work, and to listen as they discuss the search for inspiration and the idea of the daily muse. So kind of what I've been talking about as we looked at this show, but from the perspective of each of the artists. So kind of where they feel inspiration comes from, ideas, that sort of thing. And also you'll learn more about the artists themselves. I'd just like to also say exhibition programming is made possible in part by the New York State Foundation, or New York State Council on the Arts. We hope that you'll have a chance to come in and see this show for yourself. The exhibition runs through Thursday, October 20th, and we are open Tuesday and Wednesday from 11 to 3, and Thursday through Saturday from 11 to 6. So we hope that you can visit us, and we thank you for joining us.